The Dodgers just dropped 3 bombshells in a single press conference, and one of them involves Shohei Ohtani telling his own manager who to cut. Let that sink in for a second. A player, not the front office, not the coaching staff, a player, whispering in the manager's ear and roster decisions getting made. That is the level of authority Shohei Ohtani now holds inside that Dodger Stadium clubhouse. And that's before we even get to the MRI results on his pitching hand, results that have quietly sent shockwaves through the entire National League. Today, we're breaking all of it down, the departures, the big money signing from Minnesota, and the injury that no one in Dodger Blue wants to talk about but everyone needs to hear. Let's start with the roster moves, because Roberts didn't just quietly DFA someone on a Tuesday afternoon. He called a press conference. He announced 3 names. And the way he framed it tells you everything about the power dynamics inside this organization right now. What did you make of the timing and the tone of that announcement? Honestly, what stood out most wasn't the names, it was the language Roberts used. He didn't say, "The front office made a decision." He didn't say, "We evaluated the roster and felt a change was necessary." He said, and I think the exact phrasing matters here, that he was following Shohei's advice when it came to moving on from Scoville. Now, publicly, Roberts has always been the kind of manager who projects calm authority. He's led this team through back-to-back World Series championships. He signed a record-breaking 4-year extension worth $32.4 million. He is not a manager who needs to lean on his players for cover. So when he says something like that openly, in a press conference, you have to ask yourself, is this a slip? Or is this intentional? And your read is that it was intentional? Completely intentional. Roberts is one of the most media-savvy managers in the game. He knew exactly what he was saying, and what it would do. By invoking Ohtani's name, he's doing 2 things at once. First, he's protecting himself from any internal blowback over the cuts. Nobody in that clubhouse is going to challenge a decision that Shohei Ohtani co-signed. Second, and this is the more fascinating part, he's reinforcing Ohtani's leadership status within the team. This isn't a franchise where the superstar just shows up and hits. Ohtani has genuine input. He has earned the trust of management to the point where his perspective shapes personnel decisions. That is extraordinary. That has almost never happened in the modern era of baseball. From a player's perspective, what does it feel like to be in that locker room and hear your manager essentially say the team's superstar had a role in cutting your teammate? It's a double-edged situation. On one hand, it creates a sense of accountability. If Ohtani sees something in you, in your work ethic, your preparation, how you handle adversity, then you know it matters. It's not just about stats. It's about how you carry yourself. On the other hand, it can create an uncomfortable dynamic. Players are competitive. No one wants to feel like their job security depends on whether they're in the good graces of one guy, no matter how great that guy is. The ones who thrive will be the ones who understand that Ohtani's influence is rooted in excellence and winning, not politics. He's not cutting people because he doesn't like them. He's cutting people because the standard is impossibly high on this team right now. Now let's talk about the Twins pitcher, because this signing came out of nowhere and the contract number is significant. It really did come out of nowhere. The Dodgers had been relatively quiet since the offseason, and then suddenly you have this connection to Minnesota, a team that has been quietly building something of their own in the AL Central, and you're pulling a pitcher with a contract that reflects real organizational confidence. The dollar figure isn't just a salary. It's a statement. It says the Dodgers looked at their rotation depth, looked at the second half of the schedule, looked at the Cy Young race Ohtani is currently running, and decided they needed to protect that. They're building a wall around the season. What does the addition of a Twins arm specifically give Los Angeles that they didn't have before? Versatility and durability, primarily. With Blake Snell dealing with loose bodies in his elbow, and that situation is still fluid, and with the questions now swirling around Ohtani's availability as a pitcher, the Dodgers needed a reliable arm that could eat innings without drama. A Minnesota pitcher who has operated in a high-pressure divisional environment brings that kind of composure. He's not coming in wide-eyed. He knows how to pitch in meaningful games. The Dodgers don't have time right now to develop someone or wait for a guy to find his footing. They needed a known quantity, and they paid for one. How does this signing affect the rest of the rotation's dynamic? That's the interesting chess move here. When you bring in a new arm at this stage of the season, the existing guys are watching. They know their roles are being evaluated. Yamamoto is pitching at an elite level right now. His near-perfect game against the White Sox last Saturday was one of the most dominant individual performances of the 2026 season so far. He's not worried. But for the guys on the fringe of that rotation, this signing sends a clear message from Roberts and the front office: perform, or we will replace you. That's the Dodgers culture. It has always been the Dodgers culture. And it works. Now we have to address the elephant in the room. The MRI. The right hand. Ohtani temporarily suspending pitching activities. Yes. And I want to be careful here because the details matter enormously. We've already seen the situation with his left knee, which thankfully came back as normal wear and tear, nothing structural, nothing that required an IL stint. Roberts was measured about it, saying it was not an IL situation, and that they simply wanted to be smart. Ohtani himself said he feels confident he can make his next start. But this new development involving his pitching hand adds a different layer of concern. The right hand is not the plant leg. The right hand is the delivery mechanism. It is everything for a pitcher. When you hear MRI on the pitching hand and temporarily suspending pitching, how alarmed should fans actually be? The honest answer is more than the Dodgers are publicly letting on, but less than the worst-case scenario your mind immediately goes to. Here's why. The Dodgers have been extraordinarily careful with Ohtani ever since his second Tommy John surgery. They brought him back slowly last season, ramped him up in the second half, and he started Game 7 of the World Series. They know his body better than anyone. So when they say temporary suspension, they mean they are protecting him proactively, not reactively. That's actually the correct response. That's what good organizations do with irreplaceable assets. But the timing is brutal, isn't it? Devastating, in terms of the Cy Young race. Right now, Ohtani has a 1.06 ERA. He leads the National League with an OPS of .946 as a hitter. He's doing things simultaneously that no human being has ever done in the history of the sport. And the Cy Young conversation has been building all season because of exactly that. Not just the ERA, but the efficiency, the adjustments, the maturity of his pitching approach. The one legitimate vulnerability in his Cy Young case is innings pitched. Every start he misses, every inning he doesn't throw, is ground he gives back to pitchers like Sanchez in Philadelphia who are out there every fifth day without interruption. Missing even one start could shift the narrative significantly. From a mechanical standpoint, what is the most likely cause of right-hand discomfort for a pitcher with Ohtani's delivery style? With a pitcher who throws in the upper 90s consistently, who relies heavily on a sharp breaking sweeper, the most common sources of hand discomfort are grip-related inflammation, specifically around the middle finger where he's already been dealing with a blister issue, or tightness in the forearm that radiates into the hand during the deceleration phase of the delivery. Neither of those is career-threatening. Both of them can become serious if you push through them without proper rest. The MRI is the right move. Suspending pitching activities is the right move. The Dodgers are doing exactly what they should be doing. What I keep coming back to is what Ohtani said after his last start, that his mechanics weren't quite right on his pitching side and he believed that contributed to the knee soreness. That kind of self-awareness is remarkable. Most pitchers at that level of fatigue or discomfort would either push through without acknowledging it, or they'd minimize it publicly. Ohtani diagnosed himself, told the truth about it, and the team responded accordingly. That level of communication between player and coaching staff is why the Dodgers keep winning. It's not just talent. It's trust. Do you think he makes his next scheduled start? Based on everything Roberts has said and the nature of what we know about how this organization operates, yes. I think they're going to give him the maximum amount of rest within the rotation structure, and he will take the mound again. But the hand situation will be watched extremely carefully. One rough start where he's clearly compensating for discomfort, and they will shut him down again, without hesitation. Roberts has shown, repeatedly, that he prioritizes the player over the schedule. That's the right call every single time with someone like Ohtani. So when you put all three stories together, the roster cuts, the Twins signing, the Ohtani injury news, what does it tell you about where the Dodgers are right now as an organization? It tells you they are managing a very fine line between championship mode and crisis prevention. On one side, you have a team that is 42-24, 7.5 games ahead in the NL West, with a generational player posting historically unprecedented numbers on both sides of the ball. On the other side, you have injury concerns, roster instability, and a manager who is openly acknowledging that a player is helping shape personnel decisions. That is not a team running on autopilot. That is a team that is working extremely hard to hold everything together. And the most important thing Roberts did in that press conference? He showed the team and the league that this organization moves as one. The cuts, the signing, the Ohtani update, he didn't deliver those as separate, disconnected pieces of news. He framed them as part of a coherent strategy. We are protecting our best player. We are raising our standard. We are adding reinforcements. That is the message. And as long as Shohei Ohtani is healthy and standing in that clubhouse, every opposing team in the National League has a reason to be worried. Right now, the Dodgers are not just a baseball team. They are a machine built around one man's unprecedented greatness. And every roster move, every MRI result, every contract signed, it all orbits around the same question. Can they protect Ohtani long enough to let him win everything? So far, the answer is yes.